On today's show, we're going to take a look at the latest edition of the iPad, which, although a lower price point, works seamlessly with the Apple Pencil. Because Lord knows I need yet another piece of Apple hardware to my ever-growing collection. I know you do too. It's time for Unboxed Daily. Welcome to Unboxed Daily. I'm your host, Jason. And yes, we are going to check out the new lower-end iPad, which is, kind of the iPad 2018, the iPad 6th Gen. Nobody really knows what to call this thing, but it's the education iPad, basically. It's the thing that's going to take away Chromebook's market share, darn it. You like what you see and you want to check out more, hit that subscribe button. And if you really love us, hit that bell as well. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at the actual specs of this thing. Because if I'm going to spend less money on an iPad, I want to make sure that I'm still getting a good bang for my buck, right? Well, let's take a look at the actual announcement of the iPad and all the different functionality that comes with it.
But we're also upgrading the chip in this new iPad to the super fast A10 Fusion. With the A10 Fusion, this iPad is now more powerful than most PC, laptops, and virtually every Chromebook. Apple Pencil and iPad Pro has become the creative tool of choice by the world's most demanding pro artists, illustrators, and designers. Well, we wanted to bring that amazing experience to even more people. So now our most affordable iPad has support for our most creative tool, Apple Pencil.
The interesting thing about this is the connectivity with the Apple Pencil, which at this point has been pretty much limited to the iPad Pro. So if you're a student and you're doing some, creative work on it, it's a pretty decent buy at that price point. However, I have to throw this out there. If you've never seen the Apple Pencil in conjunction with the iPad Pro, it's a pretty seamless experience. So first question I'm going to have is the lower end iPad going to be an equivalent experience even if it's got a lower price point? Can I still use the Pencil as seamlessly? Here to demonstrate them side by side is everything Apple Pro.
I also tested the Apple Pencils and the refresh rate drawing with it. I'm happy to report that it's very responsive. I found it to be as responsive as my iPad Pro. In fact, I was very impressed with just how good it was. I tried to trick it to go very, very fast, applying pressure, all sorts of scenarios, and it was very, very good. So if you wanted to buy one of these to draw on, I'd say it's a very good device to do it on.
All right, so as we can see, it's crisp, it's clean, there isn't an issue with the refresh rate. Seems like it's a fairly seamless experience, right? Well, I think if we're going to talk about performance, then it's probably worth actually looking at some benchmarks, right? You want to see what the actual numbers comparatively against different models of iPads or even an iPhone to give you a sense about what it is you're spending your money on. So here with a side-by-side comparison of the iPhone 7, the latest generation iPad, and the two different models of the iPad Pro is IPhonedo, who's just benchmarking him to show us exactly what we need to see.
When we look at the benchmark test results, iPad 6 scores very similar but a little higher than iPhone 7 Plus, which has the same A10 chip in it. Falls a little behind and gets the lowest score on the compute test, but when it comes to Antutu, it performs great and once again scores higher than 9.7-inch iPad Pro and iPhone 7. iPad 6's performance is so good that PUBG Mobile recommended the highest settings for the game, and I was able to play the game with no problems at all.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not expect it to outperform the 9.7-inch model of the iPad Pro in any respect. Maybe this is worthy of an investment. One of the other things that drives me nuts about an iPad, and really a lot of Apple hardware in general, is the lack of really high quality cameras built into the hardware, right? So the one thing I do want to check out is with the new iPad, if I'm going to be recording off of it, which you don't want to take an iPad out for photography, but if you're FaceTiming or you're maybe doing some light streaming while you're, doing something in the kitchen, whatever it is, you want the camera to be high quality, right? Well, let's take a look at a comparison of the 6th generation iPad against the iPad Pro in the FaceTime camera, as shown here by DetroitBORG.
So I can't complain too much here. It's got good exposure even if I challenge it, so it's able to keep my face exposed and kind of blow out the background. But for the most part, it certainly gets the job done and should be more than adequate for most uses. Now this is the 7-megapixel 1080p camera on the iPad Pro and the iPhone X. Certainly a much better looking camera, a lot more color, that's the big thing. Also, it's not as noisy or not as soft as the 1.2 megapixel sensor. Although I don't think that camera looks terrible, this certainly looks quite a bit better. And if that's important to you, probably want to go with the iPad Pro.
Well, we can see there, 1080p is better than 720, but there isn't a huge visual difference. So unless you're doing live streaming where an iPad would be a terrible setup anyway, it seems to me that this is a pretty good option still. But here's the thing. The 6th generation iPad is intended to be a replacement for Chromebooks, right? It's based in education. So the question that I really guess I should be asking is, how useful is this for a student? I may not be one, but maybe I want to gift it to a student in replacement of a Chromebook. Is it worthwhile? Here to answer that question Austin Evans asking,
Is it worth it?
So many schools right now are using Chromebooks, and I think for most schools, the Chromebooks make more sense. I mean, it's a proper laptop, you have a keyboard, whereas with this guy, if you unplug your Apple Pencil, what you're gonna find is no smart connector. So you can't even use the same keyboards as the iPad Pro. You're going to have to rely on something that's going to be either using Bluetooth, or you're actually gonna have to use something over Lightning, which is just not an elegant solution.
not exactly a resounding yes from Austin. But it still has Bluetooth functionality. Even if it doesn't have the smart keyboard functionality, I imagine that with the right keyboard and, using the Apple Pencil, you'd still find this to be a pretty valuable tool for the average student.
Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it.
Well, that's it for this quick look at the iPad in 2018. What do you think? Worth getting or keep your money? Either way, if you like what you see, head on over to unboxed.tv for more great content, or look us up in the iOS store. In the meantime, I'll see you back here soon for more great videos from your favorite product reviewers and unboxers. I'm your host, Jason. Have a great day.